Dude, that's a tank.
Yeah, it's not a bad fish.
That's a great fish.
I don't know if they can see the little one. Certainly can see the big one.
Risk, reward, and the silly concept of trophy. These are the themes I wrestle with on the eve of this adventure.
Wow. That's incredible.
The whispers of trophy golden trout swimming somewhere in the Wind River Range fill the daydreams of fishy folk the world over. Shrouded by secrecy and protected by peaks, this is a destination that will capture any angler's attention but demand your utmost respect. Biting bugs will beat you senseless, and finding oxygen is a labored task. Found only where the heavens touch the clouds, the only direction you can go is up. And I mean this when I say your threshold for suffering will be your only barrier to entry. And understandably so, you may find yourself wondering, is this pilgrimage really worth it?
Yeah, we about died yesterday. It was one of those things that was like, okay, we got to camp, sat down, we're like, is this worth it? Is it really worth it? And I think this answers the question.
Folks, this is going to be 5 days deep in the Wyoming backcountry hunting for the biggest golden trout in the world.
I need a nap.
No. You gotta pop those lights.
Yep.
It's all in the truck already.
Peaches, the shit.
Vacant blacktop and heavy ice seem to be how most of these trips begin. And that pump, it ran up a pretty penny, but this set of early birds were finally ready to fly. We had quite a bit of trail to cover before the sun would grace the dashboard in the east, and I know what you might be thinking. Who in their right mind would get up this early just to go fish? And I know, a little weird, but cut me some slack, folks. The planning portion of the meat hang is never a perfect science. Much like a seasoned chef, I have to take the ingredients given to me and make something palatable. Long story short, where I was staying in Idaho at the time was a decent jumping off point purely due to the fact that Kowalski could fly into Idaho Falls. Plus, this allowed us to have a few days to prep our gear as well as cleaning up our roll cast a bit before the initial trip. So, taking all that into consideration, the drive down to the Wind River Range would still be about a 5-hour white knuckle nightmare, but it was doable. And with this being a long haul, I had the pedal down hard, so it was a miracle we didn't miss it. But I must say, it was weird to pass through the mecca of mountain life LARPing and not see a single clown running around the circus. No Teslas were to be found, and not a stitch of Patagonia to be seen. Just the iconic stack of antlers, and I'm happy Kowalski at least got to see that. But like the other mountain towns, Jackson Hole ate our dust as the glow of a new day graced the dashboard. All in all, we were making really good time. Now, I may sound a bit negative on this drive in, but that's not my goal. Getting to see Teton and the greater Yellowstone ecosystem slowly start to glow was nothing short of a treat. The views were stunning, and with empty roads, the drive was actually quite fun. And by some stroke of luck, we spotted a cow moose with her calf when we pulled over for a quick piss break just outside of Teton. But there was no rest for the wicked, so we didn't gawk at them long. We had miles to chase and meat hangs to cover. I can't say why, but it always seems to happen on our drive in. Kowalski and I, we have this bad habit of reliving meat hangs of past before the next one's about to happen, and it always starts the same way. Kowalski will go, "What year did that happen again?" Or I'll say, "Do you remember how bad that day was?" And without fail, we will somehow do a chronological breakdown of every single moment from all our trips over the past few years. And for those unaware, a tad bit of context may be required. The name Meat Hang originates from some silly YouTube video of a guy literally hanging meat. Kowalski and I were absolutely captivated. I can remember him saying, "Yo, that meat, it's just hanging, bro. Is that what we should call the trip?" And I can remember specifically laughing my ass off and saying, meat hang? I mean, I guess. There's no way it'll actually become a thing. Famous last words, right? And of course, the name has so much more meaning to Kowalski and I now, because what was once a dumb inside joke has become an established tradition. This annual meeting has taken us far and wide in the pursuit of fish and lots of Type 2 fun. And truth be told, it's almost hard to imagine all we've been able to accomplish so far. But you still might be left wondering, where did all this nonsense start? And it wasn't filmed, but the very first meat hang was a certified classic in the wilds of eastern Idaho. Lots of fish and many good memories, enough so that we decided to run it back. Now, full transparency, this trip started out on such a high note because we were not ready for Meat Hang 2020.
Hello. Mic check 1 2.
How are they sounding?
Crispy.
That breakfast burrito was our fishy oracle because after 6 days in New Mexico, we were both left bruised and burned. Meat Hang 2020 was dubbed the Rio Grind for a good reason. Now, despite the constant grinding, we were still able to find some absolutely incredible fish and make another year's worth of lifelong memories in the land of enchantment. Plus, we had so much fishy karma built up, next year's had to be better, right?
Dude, that's freaking right! Yes. Let's go!
But what happened in Colorado? Oh boy, did we get a colorful blindside, and it all started out so well. This disaster, it was hidden behind a magic valley, fully loaded with thick slices of certified Texas toast. But before we could butter our biscuits, Kowalski contracted a waterborne parasite and, well, he almost died. And even though the trip got cut a day short, you still have to look at this glass half full because by all metrics, this was an amazing trip. Now, of course, this is the oversimplified, kind of Spark Notesy version of each of these trips, but hopefully this gives you a better idea of what this trip is and why we're doing what we're doing.
I think gas is cheaper here.
Really?
So much happens each and every time, and it was amazing to think that all the planning for this year's meat hang had led us up this winding mountain road into foreign country. 5 hours later, we had finally touched down in the promised land. Folks, welcome to the Wind River Range. Sitting stiff-legged in a car for 5 hours before a killer hike like this isn't ideal by any means, and a quick stretch before final gear check was the most we could muster up to properly prep the legs. Those straps of our packs bit down for the first time as we headed towards the trailhead marker, and a few scribbles later, our 5-day trip into the Wind River Range had officially begun. The concept of pace is of the utmost importance on an adventure like this. With the weight of the packs, time on trail, and overall elevation gain, you cannot blow your wad in the first 6 miles. There are multiple times where Kowalski and I would take turns barking at each other to simply slow down. And this is where having a companion to keep you in check is really important, and it's so easy to let the excitement of a trip increase your pace to an almost unsustainable rate, and gassing out miles away from our destination would just not be an option, so we kind of had to take it slow.
Well, you know how I feel about this.
Once we did find our trail legs, we set into a nice groove. With stamina levels still high, we could take a bit more time to look around and enjoy the region's flora and fauna on full display. The hue of the swaying wildflowers would grab at the eye while we passed by, and we didn't see as many critters as I had originally expected, but signs of ample fish food were crawling across every rock, and I'm sure the further from the trailhead we got, the better chance we'll have of encountering some bigger critters. The relatively stable grade of this boardwalk would end up being our last unperceived luxury of the day. After this, the trail made a sharp turn, and the jagged zigzag of the switchbacks began. This gnarly uphill was set to be our first true test, and it's times like this where pace is paramount. Thankfully, our legs were still fresh enough to rock and roll up and over this obstacle without any breaks, and the swift gusts that hit our face assured us that this uphill battle, it was over, for now at least.
Wow.
Wow. Dude,
That's fucking cool.
look at that.
That's a mountain.
That is a mountain, sir.
Tailway to the top of that.
The smile that tugs at your cheeks when you see something like this, it's just so innate. Like, this feeling, it has to be carved into your soul. The re-energizing vista, it gave us a massive boost of morale as we started to snake down the backside of this ridge. And with the wind at our backs and the sun now high in the sky, we were moving at quite an impressive pace. Now, don't get me wrong, we were still maintaining proper stamina, but with sweat persisting, we both agreed that it was high time we lose the bags for a bit and take our first break. Because of Kowalski's nearly fatal interaction with a waterborne parasite last year, we decided to take a different route with water on this trip. And to preface, I will say this company does not sponsor us and they did not want to collaborate when I did reach out. So as much as I hate offering up a free shout out, it's well deserved. We used the Grail this entire trip for all our drinking water. It was extremely easy to use and offered up a fast solution to purified water in the backcountry.
You can drink that now. I just drank the full one.
Oh, sick, thanks.
Yeah.
Do you want to keep this empty? Just keep going?
Let's do one more round of drinks.
Each?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or just like split half. Make sure we're extra hydrated.
Yeah.
I want to hold as much energy as I can until.
And the body in motion.
Yeah.
Stays in motion. Let's see if we can find an all trout. You can cross, just get your momentum over. Nice. And that's easy, dude, you got that.
Once we found the trail again, we got hit with one of the more upsetting parts of this trail. And going down in the moment, that wasn't really the issue. Actually, this downhill, it was pretty easy, but I can remember my forehead getting hot and openly cursing this never-ending slide down to the valley. My thoughts, they were shifting more to a few days down the road when we would have to tackle this seemingly insurmountable uphill section yet again. And if my calculations were correct, we would be beaten up from this trip and on super low rations. And I just knew this was going to be trouble in our future.
I'm just kind of, honestly, I'm happy to be done with that downhill.
Yeah.
That just pissed me off the whole time.
Just 'cause we have to go back up.
First order of business might be to try and get a fire going. Just so that we can put up camp in peace. If we have some smoke going, it should get those bugs away.
Anxious conversation was chewed like cud, and the details of once we arrived at camp were seemingly overanalyzed. I mean, we had nothing better to do. We were still hostage to this trail for a few more hours, but before we could continue on, we desperately needed another break.
Be sparing with that, because that's all we got as far as bugs per. When we get smoke going, we'll be fine.
You want to refill?
I'm not done with it yet. There's still some left down there. Not after that showing. Yeah, I'll see you in 10.
After this brief nap, I mean, if you can even call it that, we marched on in somewhat of a blur. The strain of this pack-in had really hit us both hard, and the joints were starting to ache under the weight. Creek crossings and clearings seemed to pass by like apparitions in my peripherals. With the path finally leveling out a bit, we needed to find camp, and we needed to find it quick, because what we had thought was going to be an 11-mile hike had turned into a 14-mile grind. We didn't have much left to give.
Hey, we can, I'd rather sit on that than that, probably.
Yeah.
So we can move the fire pit.
The crushing weight was finally lifted, but there was no rest for the wicked. We had quite a bit of choring to do before we could fully enjoy our new home. We split up, and I got started moving the fire pit a bit closer to the sitting rock. While I wrestled with that, Kowalski collected some of the dead wood that surrounded our camp. Once the pit was complete, I did my best to process the pile he had hauled over, and there wasn't much talking going on. Outside of grunts and sighs, the air was relatively silent, and the only break would be the occasional pop of a dry stick. It may not show through the lens, but you can rest assured knowing we were absolutely exhausted. We couldn't stop for a considerable break until we had a fire. We needed smoke. This was truly adding insult to injury because these biting bugs were assaulting us from every single angle.
My name's Mike. I'm just calling today because I'm gonna be doing some backpacking in the Wind River Range. But I just wanted to call. I've got a couple questions with regards to some of the conditions out there, and want to see if you can help me out with that.
The nice ranger lady I called prior to this trip was not kidding when she said these bugs were bad.
Okie doke. All right. Well then, I will pack some extra bug spray. All right. Awesome.
With how much standing water is present in the winds, the mosquitoes had plenty of space to swarm, feed, and breed. But thanks to dry wood, building a fire might have been the easiest part of our day.
You know, it's almost fire season when it's almost too easy to make a fire.
The sound of the smolder and smell of the smoke was truly a godsend as the gray haze surrounded our camp. The bugs buzzed off for a bit, and we could now comfortably focus on other camp activities without the fear of major blood loss. Grading out a proper platform to place the tent was the next task on the docket, and it proved to be seriously time-consuming work, but again, it needed to be done. So while I toiled away and tamped everything down, Kowalski was creekside filling up the water bladder for future use, and he must have had to geopress that no less than 10 times to fill that sucker all the way up. Water is something you can never have enough of out here, and I'm quite happy he tackled that project. Things were finally starting to come together, and this little patch of dirt was turning out to be a fine little camp. And the major camp check marks were flying off our list, and getting clean was next.
The steak gas needed, and then we can rock the rest.
With how minimal we had to pack, we each only had one extra set of clothes. So, one to wash and dry, while the other one gets stinky and sweaty. Since laundry was complete, and I was in the neighborhood, I figured a quick streamside scrub would help shock the aching muscles and subdue the stank of a long, long day. And I'm being honest when I say I actually enjoyed it. Once I sat in there for a little while, it wasn't that bad, but Kowalski, he did not feel the same.
Yeah, I just want you all to know what he just did. Not cool. No. I will not do what he did. I don't care how dirty I am. I'll wash my face, I'll wash my feet and my arms.
It's mind over matter.
I don't do cold water like that.
Clean, dry, and warm clothes never felt better. After the day we had, and the considerable shock to the system, both physically and mentally, the smallest of comforts were amplified in a major way. We continued on with the last of the camp chores, but for the most part, we were both slowing down rather fast, and I think the only thing keeping us awake at this point would be the pangs of empty stomachs desperately in need of something more calorically dense than just a Cliff Bar. So, it was finally time to start cooking.
Drying off my shoes.
They kind of died down there for a second.
Kowalski.
I'm tired. I'm ready for dinner.
It's been a long one.
Today was pretty intense, honestly.
Video probably doesn't show it, does it?
No, I mean, our 30 seconds of B-roll isn't really going to do the freaking 15 miles we did today justice.
Yeah.
That was a lot of up and down some mountains there.
What are your feelings, body-wise and mental-wise?
Shoulders pretty sore, especially my left one.
Yeah.
The rest of me was pretty good. Feet are a little sore, obviously. I mean, we walked a lot today. So
Yeah.
I think by tomorrow we'll be ready.
Should
Get some
be.
brekkie, we'll get some fish.
Well, Kowalski gave his check-in, and I don't know if I'm doing much better. My shoulders and my hips are just absolutely obliterated, and my feet, they took a beating today. But the sun, it's still got a little bit of time left, so does the food. And yeah, that fire's crackling. We had to grind every day. This was, I think we talked about this, and it might be due to exhaustion, but this could be possibly one of the hardest things we've ever done, I've ever done.
Pretty
We had just enough food rationed out to quell the pain of gurgling stomachs, at least for tonight. But there was no doubt in my mind we would both still be in a deep caloric deficit. And going into this trip, we knew weight was going to be a major issue. I mean, you saw how far we had to hike, and because of that, we cut out as much food weight as we possibly could. And between two dudes over the length of this trip, this was quite the gamble.
All right, Chef, what's on the menu tonight?
Got chicken teriyaki with some mashed potatoes. I'm just gonna mix them up and let it all go down the same hole.
Oh, yeah.
In the protection of campfire smoke, we wolfed down every single grain of rice. I know good and well we could have probably eaten twice as much as what was offered, but at least we weren't going to bed hungry. And I will say, after dinner, things slowed down to a snail's pace, and the day had now caught up and well overrun us at this point, and no matter how nice the warmth of the fire felt, we both could barely keep our eyes open. So we retreated into the neon green fortress while the sun was still shining, and within minutes, we were both sound asleep.
Gucci gang.
The hangover of our hike had set in rather hard, and waking up, it was downright painful. The snooze button had been smashed multiple times, and now we were running a bit late, so we couldn't dilly-dally anymore. We needed to get up and get moving. Kowalski got to work on breakfast while I patched myself up. With the constant wet, cold, dry, hot cycle my feet receive, I tend to get some flat tires every now and then, and the thick calluses around my big toe had completely split apart at some point in the night. And not only was it painful, but that big of a wound on the feet, that is just asking for an infection. And in my opinion, the best in-field solution to this is super glue. And it may sound funny, but it certainly works to plug up any unwanted holes and start the healing process. I mean, at least in the short term. So while the glue dried in the morning light, I got to rigging up the rods for today's fishing adventure.
It's morning time. We're not tired. And we're ready to catch fish.
You must be used to getting fed there, buddy, huh? Not afraid of us.
With final fishing gear checks out of the way, we said goodbye to our new camp friend and headed towards the trail. There was no way we could see the lake from this low, but we set our sights somewhere high above the alpine and buckled down. The ankles and knees, they were a tad rusty, and the bite of the morning air, it made this hike somewhat uncomfortable, but this is what we signed up for. There was no turning back now. I knew there were 2 confirmed golden trout lakes in this particular drainage, and after a bit of discussion, we both agreed to spend our first day here at the bigger of the 2 lakes. So We banked right at the fork and slowly started our climb up. And with the trail this remote, it sees little traffic in a given year. Once we separated from the evergreen, we both had to keep a keen eye out for cairns as to not stray away from the path. So, say what you want about them, but without those little stacks of stone, there would be no doubt in my mind that we would have had a lot harder of a hike up to this lake.
Well, shoot, morning.
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 How's it going?
Oh, it's going.
Yeah?
Can't complain about this.
You guys packing out?
Yeah.
Shoot, how's the fishing?
That's good.
Yeah,
Lots of fish.
this is absolutely insane.
Howdy.
It's going well. I guess we're doing the old tag, giving the passing of the baton.
Yep, exactly.
Holy cow.
You guys have a safe hike back.
It's worth the walk, so it's good.
Yeah, we about died yesterday. It was one of those things. It was like, okay, we got to camp, sat down. We're like, is this worth it? Is it really worth it? And I think this answers the question.
Since we are so far removed from civilization, it took us a bit by surprise to see a big group of campers at the top of the world. Clearly, this lake was not a secret, but hey, I was fine with that. Walking down to the rocky lake shore, we immediately saw what we were looking for. Not only were there schools of golden sliding by, but we saw some massive specimens. One in particular had such a pronounced beak and dwarfed all the other fish it swam with. It must have been the biggest fish in the lake, and after this display, it was so hard to buck the impulse to jump in right there and start fishing. But we both wanted to give our new hiker friend some distance to pack out in peace. Plus, this lake was massive, so I told Kowalski that we ought to go hike down to the inlet stream and at least give it a look. Usually, when I fish high alpine lakes like this, inlet and outlet streams hold the most active fish. Unfortunately for us, when we finally managed to maneuver our way to what seemed to be the inlet, there was absolutely no fish. In fact, there was barely even a trickle. Kind of a disappointing excuse for an inlet stream, if you ask me. With that uncertainty now out of the way, we had wasted a big chunk of lake time. We needed to turn around and head back in the direction of the outlet where we had spotted fish earlier.
All I want is one, Kowalski.
Well, there's 40 here. Oh, dude. No fucking way, broke me off. Careful now. Don't horse him.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
That is one of the most beautiful fish I've ever seen in my life.
Let's freaking go, dude. That is what we came for, man. Holy cow.
Bucket list trout.
I mean, that's a bucket list trout. That's insane. The setting, it doesn't get any better than this, man. Woo! Oh. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is what got us our first golden trout of the trip. Going for gold, mission accomplished. But I want to kind of highlight this fly. So we've been struggling this morning, trying to figure them out. I mean, we got here late and the sun was already up. It was a little bit kind of choppy, and that's not what you want for lake fishing. So we've got our 9'5" weight. This is a good middle ground rod for getting out, but then also being able to cast delicate dry flies like this. And we got back to the outlet and Kowalski said, dude, I just saw one get crushed. And he said, little green bug, can't really tell what. And we tied on, little green bug, and that's kind of what got hit. And we've had some bites, but that was our first like take to the net, and just like, dude, it does not get any better than this. But now it's time for Kowalski to get one. Cast it again a bit further on the outside.
I got one cruising towards it.
I see him, I see him. Oh! Did you see that?
Yeah.
Ah! Woo! She whipping, baby. Cast. Did you see where it came up?
Oh, you see that one?
Yeah, dude, that's
a chocolate.
that was a freaking. Same with the one on the left.
This is where the ebbs and flows of lake fishing can be quite frustrating, and part of me thinks it's due to the wind picking up, but these fish, they seem completely uninterested in the dry fly we were throwing, where earlier they were chasing and even biting. Plus, I mean, at this point, we had pounded the water pretty good, so that could be part of it too, just being that they were onto our shenanigans.
Come on, let's give him a break. We've harassed him pretty good. We can come back, switch up, get a game plan.
We moseyed on up that sunny hillside and found a big boulder to cozy up next to. After getting in the water and being exposed to wind all morning, I was chilled to the bone, so any and all shelter from this unending wind was nothing short of a treat. The slim rations for lunch and a bit of water helped to get a little bit of feeling back in my hands, but overall, I wasn't feeling great. I couldn't shake how uncomfortable this lake was making me. There was no way we could only muster up one fish, especially with how many we could just reach out and grab. Something had to change, or we might be leaving this lake sooner than expected.
Let's take those guys off.
Well, we want to keep the dual drives for the creek. Get it on the dry dropper rig.
We'll catch them on the dry dropper for sure. Do you think something like that, maybe? Yes! Yes, 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 yes! That's a good one. Holy shit. Holy shit, Kowalski. Holy shit. Oh my god, that's a big fish! Oh my god! Dude,
We did it.
that's the biggest fish in the lake.
You need a bigger net.
I know. With this one, we need a bigger net. Holy shit.
That's a trophy. That's a trophy golden trout.
I'm so happy with it.
Oh my god.
You. Kowalski, what the hell?
I am pumped right now.
What the hell, dude?
This is a tank.
That's insane. Let's get him back in.
With that certified trophy back in the water, we were both floating on cloud 9. This is why you come to the Wind River Range, folks, but now the question stood. Was that just a fluke? Or was changing up to the leech really the play?
Holy cow, dude, that was insane!
Let's go.
Oh my gosh.
I don't need to catch fish the rest of
Most
the trip.
people go their entire lives and will never see a fish like that. Should we keep hammering them?
Literally, right before Kowalski hooked up with that fish, we were discussing plan Bs and potentially leaving this lake for good. It only took a few more casts to find the answer that we were looking for. The bite window was truly open.
Need help?
Nope, I got it. Yes, what the heck, dude? We were just about to leave.
Although it is a little nice with the wind up because the skeeters went away.
Yeah, I can dig that. There we go.
Oh, yeah. He's a nice one.
Oh.
No.
Keep going. You can just see the big ones going after it. It's crazy. That's a good fish.
Oh, that is a good fish.
Yes.
Atta boy.
We're on him, man. What the hell?
8-ball corner pocket is exactly where you want to see that fire truck pinned. With another absolutely beautiful fish back in the water, it was time to do the old switcheroo and have Kowalski find a few more for himself.
cast along the bank there.
Okay.
Traveling boys now. Oh, there we go.
Oh, that's fish.
Nice one.
Here, I got you this.
I overextended myself just a little bit.
Nice.
But we got him.
You tell he's been caught before.
Yeah.
Got a little bit of crooked smile. It's a beautiful fish though, dang.
Alright, let's get for the kill.
These fish were so fired up and couldn't be less bothered by the disturbance of their fighting friends. In order to remain somewhat stealthy, we made sure to move down the lakeshore every once in a while to catch at new cruising fish.
Nice. I got him. You can bring him over. It is hilarious how aggressive these fish are being. Nice. Nice old tubby little guy.
Yeah. It was quite the incredible turnaround because we had these fish seemingly dialed in and there was no way we were about to let the pressure off. And really, there wasn't anything too complicated about what we were doing. Major clumps of fish would be schooling and cruising various points and drop-offs within eyeshot of the bank.
Wow, that is yet another beautiful golden. Holy cow. See you.
All it took was a well-placed cast just outside of these schooling fish, give it a second or two to drop and a few steady strips, and almost every single cast, a flash of red lightning would come cruising from the depths in pursuit of our measly offerings.
Yeah, I see why this is not considered a trophy golden trout lake.
Oh my gosh, did you see that one?
Now that is a classic golden trout right there. We've kind of, I don't know, just found a random, sporadic, crazy bite. Streamers, it's electric, and this has made the day so worth it. But we're about to let this guy back, and yeah, keep at him.
For the next half hour or so, things slowed down considerably. With the bite window closing in front of our eyes, we were lucky Kowalski found one last golden trout for the day.
Oh, yes! Oh, that was so cool. I saw that one.
You came from a ways to get that one.
Yeah, I know. That was sweet.
Yeah, he's the low guy.
Great fish, though. Holy cow.
I'm gonna get a look at his belly.
Yeah, he's beautiful. We need to get some shots.
With the fever pitch pace we ran, there was never a good time to stop and explain what exactly we were using. Luckily, I figured something like this would happen, so I made sure to prepare in advance. Well, hopefully if you guys are seeing this, that means Kowalski and I are catching some fish on this fly. And I want to talk about this fly just a little bit more, but first I just have to note, I'm going to be running the video on how to actually tie it down below, so just use that as a blueprint, don't follow the exacts. But this is a bit more complex, and it's easier for me to talk about this while I'm in a static environment rather than on the water, going balls to the wall, trying to catch every single trout in the lake. But this pattern is a perfect representation of a lot of the bigger nymphs that you're gonna find in high mountain lakes. We're talking dragonflies, damselflies, even some sorts of crane flies. And a stretch would be that you could even, you could mistake this for a juvenile trout or a leech. It covers a wide range, but it's just a bit more buggy than our basic leech patterns. With those rubber legs, a little bit of crystal flash, the two-tone on the zonker strips. We're using a little bit less zonker than our leech patterns, but still it has it in there just to make it nice and buggy and then kind of give the contrast of the two colors. But this is a more natural style, the brown and the green. This is a killer pattern. And yeah, tungsten bead with the jig hook. This thing gets down, and the fish just mop it up. So hopefully you can see why you would tie a couple of these up a few months in advance like I'm doing now. And yeah, they work, man. So Kowalski, Mike, back to you guys. Catch some more fish.
The goodest of times with the goodest of bros.
Oh, you had a good day.
Great day. No, I still don't, that fish, I don't think you.
Is it the best day of meat hang
No.
so far?
No.
No?
No, because we still have more days to go. Should we geopress one more time?
Yeah, it would be a great idea to geopress before
This is about a half.
It's truly amazing how much difference an hour can make. Leaving this little lake, spirits were high and we were truly triumphant. This day would have looked so different if we actually decided to pull the plug right before Kowalski caught that giant. It's almost like having patience is a virtue when it comes to this silly thing we call fly fishing. Imagine that, folks. Our spirits stayed high even though we were heading back down to lower elevations, and just because we left the lake didn't mean our day of fishing was over. Quite the contrary, actually. It could be argued that the real fishing had just begun because the stakes, they were now much, much higher. Our stomachs, they were still very much empty, and it was paramount we find some fresh fish for dinner.
Alright, let's get to it.
All right, we're back at camp. Got kind of settled. Got half a Cliff Bar.
Yep, feeling good.
Now it's time to go find some dinner.
Yep, Brookies are on the menu tonight, so let's cook it up, baby.
With all the planning that goes into a trip like this, almost every single action taken has a very real purpose. Making camp so close to this little creek would be one example out of many. Not only would it grant us easy access to fresh water for drinking and bathing, but it was full of crispy brook trout nuggets. We just hadn't caught them yet. This type of fishing could not be much more different than what we were doing at the lake. Small stream fishing, it's an absolute blast, that's a fact, and it's not as dependent on bite windows like the fish we were targeting earlier today. I'm sure it's quite rare for these brookies to see more than a handful of anglers in a given growing season, so more often than not, when they see something that even closely resembles food, they're gonna do their best to eat it, because they have to. All in all, we had only worked up a small section of creek, and anywhere that looked fishy either meant a fish was caught or at least a bite or two, and more often than not, we were offered up a second and even third chance to bag that brookie. Our bag was starting to get some weight to it now, and at this next bend, I was met with a wonderful, wild surprise.
Oh! It's a golden! Yeah! Wasn't ready for that.
Since we literally had bigger fish to fry already in the bag, this wild golden, it wouldn't have made much of a meal, so he flopped back and we moved on. With limited pressure from angling and almost zero natural predators, culling these overcrowded brookie streams is almost necessary to a point. We weren't keeping every single fish we caught. Anything small or skinny we would just put back so that it would have a chance to dry another day. And this is a rare win-win for us anglers because we were able to eat more and have more meat on them without constantly having to crunch bones, and now with more space available in the stream, some of the smaller trout could grow larger. But with that last brookie, we were going to have more than enough to eat, and it was time to head back to camp and get cooking.
All right, mission accomplished. The fish are getting taken care of right now, cleaned up. Kowalski's doing that whole deal. Right now, it is time for me to get a fire going because as you can see, maybe by the mask, it is buggy as all get out. So we need a little bit of smoke to help dissipate the clouds of mosquitoes.
Since I knew we would be doing a fair bit of cooking over the next few nights, I took it upon myself to process and stockpile a fair bit of wood. I was able to use this angled rock just next to camp as the perfect pressure point to break the wood without much effort.
All right, if you season, cook, I'll get the water going.
With the subtle stockpile stacked up for the night, all that was left to do was cook, and We didn't focus too much on filming the cooking, at least not of this batch of brookies, because this was technically supposed to be the test run. Kowalski promised me we could film it tomorrow if they turned out good. And you might be able to tell, but the lens can only say so much. But trust me when I say, these were the crispiest brook trout nuggets this side of the Wind River.
They happy with how they turned out?
Yeah. I cooked these ones a
The clothes hung to dry while the bear bag was raised high. Last camp checks were under order, while the glowing coals, they began to smolder. Folks, our second day here in the winds was officially over, and even though it was a tad early, laying down on that pillow, it was much deserved.
It was a good day.
Great day.
Fantastic day, honestly.
Hard to beat. Sorry we weren't as active in showing the evening activities. We're tired, and we're probably hungry. But the brook trout were really good.
They turned out really good.
So, we'll see you guys, I guess, in the next one, or tomorrow, or whatever this ends up being. So, peace. Alrighty, folks. If you're seeing this, that means Kowalski and I, we made it out alive, and the golden trout mission was a success, at least this day. But, folks, as always, thank you so very much for sticking around and watching all these videos, man. It really does mean a lot that Kowalski and I can kind of share these adventures with you, and then at the same time, you guys enjoy them. It's, I don't know, it's pretty neat.
Join the Discord.
Join the Discord from Kowalski, so go do it. But folks, as always, the more you like and comment and subscribe, all this bloody BS, algo stuff that I don't claim to understand, I'm not telling you to do it, but it certainly helps this channel grow, and it's been, I don't know, man, it's been growing so quick, and it helps us do more stuff like this the more it grows. So folks, with that being said, wherever you find yourself, be it in the middle of freaking nowhere, Wyoming, or in your backyard, I sure hope you keep those feet in the water. And until next time, tight lines.